Welcome back to the pulse. The body of a man believed to be in his 30s has been recovered from the Odaw drain this afternoon, bringing the number of persons reported dead in yesterday's flood to 4. The Ghana Meteorological Agency is this afternoon forecasting more rains. We'll bring you details of a weather warning we just received shortly. We'll also have in the studio this afternoon officials of NADMO to help us educate the public on what to do to avoid being trapped by floods. First, though, Latif Idris with a report from Aveno, where police retrieved the body of the man.
So information available according to NADMO indicates that the recent rains claimed 3 lives. But just moments ago, we got wind of another lifeless body that has been found in the Odaw River. And that is what you are seeing right now in the background. The police is here, and the operator of the excavator is now trying to bring out the body that is already decaying in the Odaw. The exercise has just begun to get the body out of the Odaw. Wow. Wow. That is something. That is something you just watching in the background, a decayed body being scooped out of the Odaw River. And already people are wailing and crying just at the sight of the decayed body. So the operator of the excavator just pulled out the decayed body and there lie the decayed body that has just been scooped out of the Odaw here at Aveno. We have some personnel of the Ghana Police Service here, but they are waiting for higher authority to get here before they can tell us about this. But again, already the stench from the decayed body is unbearable. Some other people are trying to get even closer to the decayed body to ascertain whether it's a male or a female body. Already someone is vomiting over there. She just can't withstand it. And she's throwing up. She's throwing up just at the side of the body and the stench that is emanating from it. But we know someone has gone missing. Or the exercise is still underway and almost completed. So we can now report that the body that was just scooped out of the Odaw is a male. The recent rains came down not for 2 hours, not for 3 hours, less than 1 hour. A lot more places got flooded. 3 people got killed in Accra, plus this one, making 4 bodies as a result of the recent rains. Information we have just gathered from the police indicates that yesterday, after the rains, a woman and her children, plus the member of parliament for this area, Henry Cote, reported at the Tesano police station about the fact that their husband and father had been drowned during the rains. The Odaw here in Aveno. This is Latif Idris signing out on a rather sad note.
So that was Latif Idris with that sad one from Aveno, where one more body has been retrieved from the Odaw River. Now in the studio with me is George Ayisi, who is Director of Communication at NADMO. Good afternoon to you, and he will help us explore this issue further. Mr. Ayisi, first of all, we are hearing of one more death. We knew about 3, now we're told the death toll is 4. But what is the extent of damage from yesterday's rains alone?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Good afternoon to your viewers. After the rains, our men went around to do mop-up exercise, and we realized about 28 points were affected by the floods. And, you know, some people have had their livelihoods taken away. By livelihood, I'm talking of what they do, source of living. And the floods, you know, had gotten into their shops, and some bakers, some repairers, and others have had their livelihood taken away. Some have had their rooms flooded and others. So yes, it was severe. The flood affected about 28 major points that NADMO can report of. And then some of the aftermath of what we're seeing. A day after the rains, mother and the son, which your reporter spoke about, were standing by a wall at a school in Newtown, and the wall collapsed, and so they lost their lives. We cannot completely attribute it to the flood, but some also believe this because of the quantum of water that is percolated into the wall that might have weakened the wall to collapse. So we take it at that, and then unfortunately we are having this because we had a report that at Jawulu, Fiesta Royal area, a 50-year-old man was washed away. But because our men trained up to a point and we couldn't find anybody.
So you suspect that's the man?
But because from your man's report, this is Alajo, and you know, so it's far different from the Jawulu one. So I wouldn't want to believe.
It was washed away
yes,
from that point.
Yeah, because looking at the person, the 58 could befit that. So it's unfortunate that this number is the first one. The identical one is a young girl between age 15 or 17 who we fell into a pit, you know. As a result of the flood, she didn't know there was a pit there and fell into it. So the body was discovered after the rains or the floods had receded.
Now, so how are you meeting these people halfway? Have you visited those who have been displaced? Have you spoken with them? What are you gathering, and what are you also providing for those people?
Yeah, thank you, Aisha. The practice or the procedure, the standard operating procedure SOP is when you get this, after the mop-up exercise, in the mop-up exercises, we get to encounter some of these reports. Then we get to know what the depth or the way, the degree that the people have been affected as far as the flooding was concerned. Then we'll let our local representatives go to take do the assessment and then bring the report to us. If there's the need for us to come and then give them some relief items, we will do. If there's the need to get them back on their feet as a result of support, we will, in terms of getting their livelihood back, then that will be based on the assessment report that will come to NADMO.
But listening to some of the people who were displaced or the victims of yesterday's rain, for instance, they complain of a slow response from NADMO. But this is also not the first time we're hearing this. Mostly we've heard people say that NADMO is slow in responding to some of these things. Why is that?
I'm surprised because I've said a time with a number that we have 3 syndicates. And of those syndicates, each syndicate is subdivided into about 3 tangos who are positioned strategically at places where we know, you know, once there's heavy rains and there's flood, we are likely to get distress response calls from those places, and then we dispatch our team there. Maybe sometimes they call because our numbers are a hotline. You get it. When the floods come in, the rains are in, they become very hot, and getting through is difficult. But once you get through and you tell us, we dispatch a team to that point. And when the team, the number there is not enough, we ask another, tango to join the earlier one, so they can quickly resolve the issue. And so when they get there, you call at another point, then we need to either let another team move to those places. So sometimes, or let the one that is joined the other one go back to where they were supposed to have positioned themselves closer to wherever you may be. You get it? So then it becomes a problematic getting to that point. That may cause the delay, but mostly we are swift to respond.
You're swift to respond.
Mostly.
Well, let me read to you a weather report that is coming in the last few minutes from the Ghana Meteorological Agency, and it says a rainstorm over the ocean will continue to cast cloudiness over the coast as cautioned earlier. Thunder and rain with slightly windy conditions will be observed over parts of the coastal sector. Areas slightly north of the coast, that's Eastern Volta, Central and Western regions, are expected to experience moderate rains with thunder this afternoon and in the evening. The general public is therefore advised to take necessary precautions, and that's coming from the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Now, you've been we've heard one thing from you all the time, that you would desilt gutters. Anytime we talk about floods and rains, you're talking about we're desilting gutters. What differently are you going to do this time once we're hearing of more rains setting in?
Good. Well, the desilting is very important, and then constant or continuous education to the people. For instance, the weather report you've read, we treat people to pay heed.
How many of that have you?
Yes.
How much of the education did you do before we even got into the rainy season?
Oh, we do. Our local people, we treat them to go around to speak to people, especially those living in flood-prone zones. We have zonal officers, we have district officers, then to the region and then to the headquarters. And so at the lower level, we have our men doing continuous education to the people in relation to the peculiar hazard at that place. You get it? And in Accra, we have a lot of places downstream that encounter or suffer floods. Okay, so it's something that they do. And then we also sometimes put our men on televisions and radio to talk about these issues. Okay. And myself sometimes, I speak about it, but we deliberately put officers in different languages to speak about peculiar hazard that is coming up. Okay. Flood associated with the rains, and then fires when the rains are over. You get it? So we do these continuous education.
I know about fire, for instance, or even the police would alert you that there's this armed robbery syndicate. This is the kind of way the mode or modus operandi. So if they come to you, do this or do that to avert any harm. But what kind of education are you giving to people? Do you educate people on how to also prevent themselves from getting hurt when, for instance, their rooms are flooded or their homes are flooded?
Yes, we do.
Do you do that kind of education?
This is an education material we have. And some of these things contain what they need to do when the rains are coming, especially when you live in a flood-prone zone. Okay. So we take before the floods, during the floods, and then after the floods. It's been categorized, and then our men go to give them some of the leaflets where they are not enough. They translate this into the local language and explain it to the people. So we do continuous education, especially if you're in flood-prone area and the rains are coming. You need to move to a higher ground, okay? And in certain localities, they identify places we call safe havens. And then we entreat them to know the map up of the area, the routes that can take them to where the identified safe haven is, so that you move out. And then the need for you to put off all your electrical gadgets before leaving the place, because your room will be flooded before you return, right? Okay. And in order not to get the water charged, and with the possibility of being electrocuted. Okay. You get it? And so we do all this, and with your valuables like your certificates and other important things you put them on a higher place before you go. Okay? So these and then take good care. When you're going, take your children along. Support the vulnerable, like the disabled and other people, to get to the safe place before you move yourself. So these are communal ways that they help each other. The NADMO, we give these kind of education to the people in such affected areas.
But we all aware, because I'll come back to how prepared you are for the more rains we're talking about. But we all know and are aware of the causes of some of the floods. We know buildings on waterways is one of the big issue. We know about lack of drains and how some drains are not desilted and all of that. We also know about sanitation issues. And how have you collaborated so far? Because this is not the first time we're seeing floods. It's become a ritual, and unfortunately it's becoming worse by year. Anytime we get to the rainy season, we're seeing worse trends than we saw before. How have you collaborated with other agencies so far to deal with some of these problems?
We have a very effective collaboration with the Metro and of course the assemblies. You know, the Metro, before I entered, my deputy called me that they are going to work on these weather warning. So they release, they release, and then we add something, we do some addendum, and then we also release it into the public domain, and we pass it also through our GOTA to our directors across the nation, so they can relay it to radio stations to rebroadcast it. Over the time, we've seen that sometimes people do not pay more attention to the weather warnings. You get it, but recently,
because mostly it's not been effective.
Good.
Even now, yesterday, for instance, we had warning from the Metro that it was going to rain, but it didn't. So, I mean, based on this,
but now I am beginning to see that between 95 to 98% they are being successful.
Maybe now,
but
before,
now,
no.
Yes, and Aisha, the other challenge too is that because this year the volume of water that falls when we pour on the ground when there's rain is also another thing, because is it 3 days or so they were talking about 78 millimeters or something. You get it, but they are saying it's going to be higher, 100 and over millimeters, and that coupled with the fact that sometimes when there's continuous rain, the quantum of water that percolates into the soil makes it saturated. So a little water is not able to be absorbed.
So are we still going to see the choked gutters? Are we still going to see the lack of drains? Are we still going to see people dumping refuse haphazardly, and then finally we come back to floods?
The assembly, if you interview the mayor, he will tell you people are continuously being prosecuted. You get it? They arrest people who throw refuse into the drains and others. They do that. They prosecute the people, and yet it's ongoing. It keeps happening and recurring. With the issue of dredging and co, these are major issues that the assembly and the government are working on as we speak. The excavators, dredge masters and co, with the work they are doing. About 22 points that they are dredging and then constructing storm drains and co. I thought the timing was a little late, but they say better late than never. You get it? Because if you look at the Odaw, the width is good. At the depth, I understand it's where you see it, it can even go about 6 to 8 feet deep. You get it? And so if we had desilted it earlier, you get it, the flow, volume of water that can be contained in the Odaw going into the sea would have been more, and the floods would have been abated. But as it is, because of the silted nature, a little amount of water, it overflows this bank. So
what are you going to do differently this time around? We're hearing that there'll be more rains.
No, Aisha, the dredging, this thing is that the dredging should continue, and there are certain things we cannot do right now. That you're going to construct storm drains now. You cannot do that.
But you could have done that before the rains, knowing very well that we have two seasons, the rainy season and
the financial resource availability. You saw the time that the 197 was released to the Works and Housing Ministry for the works to be done. The Minister for the sector has said they need about 7 billion to frontally tackle these flood problems. Okay.
Unfortunately, so it means that until we get that 7 million,
the Garrett project, Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project, World Bank sponsored project targeted at the vulnerable areas like the Nima, the Odaw, the Sahara area and co. They are going to do some of these storm drains for them. They are committing phase 1, $200 million, which is equivalent of about 1 billion today's exchange rate. And so if we need about 7 billion and World Bank is giving us 1 billion, if our government can commit about 2 billion addition, so we do about 50% or a certain percentage of construction of storm drains and to resolve this problem. The challenge will be reduced by next year.
So how much do we have now and what have we done to resolve this issue?
Now what we have is the 197 and that has been given out for the
and what have you done with that so far?
Oh, no, that's what the dredging going on. You see first light, there are 22 points that they are doing this across the nation. You get it? And so that one, the minister can properly answer it with a 7 billion issue. But the Garrett project too, unfortunately, is going to be released in the last quarter of 2020, which means we are likely, if we don't get something done, next year we'll be saddled with the same issue before the release of those funds. That's why I'm proposing if we can get some government funding to start some of these, because I take solace in the fact that Alajo, before some time, was also experiencing serious flooding until President Kufuor decided to construct that storm drain, and it's helped a lot. And so if we consistently commit funds and resources to that, and then we say every year we are doing 5-10 kilometers of storm drain for the next 5 years. I believe by the end of the 5th year,
have you made those proposals to the Works and Housing Ministry, the Finance Ministry?
The Director General of NADMO is a member of the Works and Housing Board, and our reports and co contain some of these things that is taken there. Another critical thing that I thought, and I pray the ministry should look at and begin to take that to implement, is the June 3 report. 2015, the June 3 report, Aisha, read it. Almost everything is contained therein. You get it? Retention dams upstream and all that. You get it? So that the volume of water that will come into the Odaw when the rains are on will be reduced, because some of the water floods will be trapped in the retention.
So are you well prepared for the upcoming rain?
Yes, in terms of response, you get it.
Already people are accusing you of responding slowly.
I'm surprised, to be honest with you.
So how are you going to improve on that?
I'll take this back to our Deputy Director General Operation, Abu Ramadan, and then we'll meet the operations people and the Central Rescue team that this is the report we've gotten. If there are other lines, we'll make those other lines available so that, people can call about 3, 4, 5 different lines. So the EOC will get more men there to respond to that, because there's pressure on the short code 999 option 4, and then the other one that I give 0299 350-030. These are the numbers we've been putting in the public domain. So sometimes the traffic there becomes high.
Can you mention the names, the numbers again, so that people can take note?
999. That's the short code. 999. There you say option 4. When you say option 4, it will route you straight to NADMO EOC.
And what's the extra number you are adding?
029 is a GOTA number. 0299 350 030.
All right, I'm extremely grateful to you. I'm extremely grateful. George Ise is Director of Communications at NADMO. He's been explaining to us how prepared NADMO is, as we're being told by the Metro that there will be more rain.